Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me on the Healthful Roots podcast. I am so sorry that I have been having a hiatus. It was a busy summer. As you know, I joined Reveal Vitality, which is a longevity clinic in downtown Sarasota. So I've been busy kind of trying to transition away from Healthful Roots and into Reveal, creating a new way of practicing medicine as I'm now in a team of people that can support me and support my clients better. But it's been a lot of work. So I've been on a hiatus, but I am bringing this back and we will have new guests hopefully in the coming weeks. Now, what I did want to talk to you about was something interesting that happened, I guess, over the last year. So I have talked about how I am no stranger to burnout. When I worked in the hospital during COVID, I remember getting really burnt out. I did a Dutch test on myself, which is a urine test that looks at cortisol and sex hormones. And my hormones were all over the place, but I didn't need that test to show me because my cycles were irregular. My skin was breaking out like crazy. I was tired all the time. I was dependent on caffeine to get through the day. I did a deep dive into functional medicine at that time, and the supplements that I needed. I also had to wean back of my exercise to try to get myself back. I was someone who used to work out like 6 times a week. And then I found out that that was like not okay for my body. So then after a few months, I was able to kind of get that on track. Finally, after I think almost 3 years of like struggling with my skin, but slowly getting better, my skin has cleared up. That's a big win. Uh, but what happened recently, as I was still working in the hospital part time, taking care of my Healthful Roots clients, and transitioning to Reveal, I got burnt out again. Right. And that was just normal. I knew it was a season, so I did it. And we just, sometimes there's seasons where you just can't control what's going on and you just have to deal with it. And that's what I did. So I was in a season. Now, what I noticed over the last year, a year ago, after Thanksgiving turkey trot, I had to stop running because I was also getting really tired at that time for similar reasons. Work. I was working a lot and traveling a lot for work. So I knew that running can sometimes just be really draining for someone who has what we call HPA axis dysfunction or who's struggling maintaining cortisol levels, which is where I was at that point. I could not go on a run, even a 5K, without having to take like a 2 to 3 hour nap after. And so last Thanksgiving, after doing the turkey trot, I decided that I was going to put running on hold. However, I was still weight training. I was doing F45 once or twice a week. And that was mainly the strength training days. I don't do like the crazy cardio days at F45 ever, really. And that's been the mainstay of my workouts. Yoga, when I was able to do it, I haven't really been able to do that now. Working at Reveal, the times just don't really work out too great for me. But I try to do yoga at home. I found a YouTube video or a YouTube channel that I really like for yoga. So that's been great. And let's see, what else? Yeah, so I was working out 3 to 4 times a week. Now, last Sunday, for the first time in a year, I was able to go for a run. It was just 2 miles, but still a run. And I was very proud of myself. And what was even more impressive is that I did not have to take a nap after. I did not feel tired or wiped out after. So I was very excited to see that improvement. And what has improved and what has happened? I think it's a couple things. I think that now that I only have one job, that has helped kind of channel my energy into one place versus being scattered everywhere. I think that that break from running also helped me. I have gotten my hormones on track this year. Last December is when I started working on getting my hormones back on track. I think that's mostly it. So why did I want to talk about that? I wanted to talk to you guys about that because even if you're not a runner, I wanted to acknowledge that there are times when our energy is just not where we want it to be. And, some people might say, oh, like this cortisol thing, the Dutch test, How can that be accurate? For me, it's been accurate and it's been very helpful. I think it's been very helpful for my patients, because what it shows us is that some of us, including myself, are used to always doing. And then we get stuck in this fight or flight situation where we just feel a need to constantly be doing something. And when we try to sit back and relax, we feel really uncomfortable because our nervous system isn't used to just taking a step back and relaxing. And it's something that I will probably continuously struggle with and have to work on and remind myself that it's okay to not always be doing, that it's okay to sometimes be relaxing. But I can tell it in my body now. I know when I'm getting to that point of burnout. Previously, I have done a lot of meditation. I still do it, just not as often, to help me get back into a relaxed state. You can use things like taking baths. There's some supplements that can help. But at the end of the day, it's about being mindful about the things that we put on our plate and whether or not we're able to do them. Right? I have a lot of patients that I have a hard time saying no, and then they accumulate a bunch of stuff on their plate, and then they're upset with themselves because they committed to too much and now they're tired and they're burnt out. And I just think that it's something that we have to learn to manage. Now that we've talked about that side of things, let's talk about what we can do about it. Now, for someone who is chronically stressed and really struggling with that stress, feeling tired all the time, let's start with diet. I don't recommend intermittent fasting for these people because fasting can put more stress on an already stressed system. I would recommend eating 3 regular meals a day. If you're hungry in between, snack on something healthy, but I would try not to. Just eat really 3 solid meals a day. Make sure that you're getting adequate protein and be mindful of your protein intake. Get enough vegetables in your diet is important. Then from diet, let's move on to supplementation. So supplements, and remember, I'm not your doctor, so talk to your doctor before starting any supplements, but these are the supplements that I recommend for my patients, especially when it comes to stress or an overtaxed system. Magnesium is a non-negotiable, but as I've said before, there are multiple different types of magnesium and they all do different things. Magnesium glycinate is great for, calming your nervous system. Threonate is good for cognitive function. Magnesium oxide and citrate are good for constipation, right? So you've got to know which one you're taking. I have patients who tell me, oh, the doctor told me to take magnesium, and they're taking magnesium oxide. And if they're trying to take it for anxiety, that's not going to help with anxiety. That's going to be really great for constipation though. But anyways, I digress. I like Magnesium Complete because it has multiple forms of magnesium, but so does the company BioOptimizers. They have a magnesium blend that is also really good. It's just a little bit more expensive, but also a very good blend. Anyways, so I recommend something like that. I recommend an adaptogen. There are different types of adaptogens. So this one, I think you do need to talk to a provider about what adaptogen is good for you. You have rhodiola, holy basil, ashwagandha, which is a very popular one, ginseng. So just know there's different types, and I would not really just start a random adaptogen without knowing what you're kind of trying to do with the adaptogen. So I would recommend that. Make sure that your nutrition markers are optimal. I see a lot of B vitamin deficiency, and B vitamins are very important for energy. So if you're not on a B complex, I would be on a B complex or on a supplement that has multiple of the nutrients that you need. I take IM8 powder from, it's IM8. It's a powder because taking a multivitamin for some reason I cannot tolerate and it makes me nauseous. But if you can, Mitocore from Orthomolecular, that's a good multivitamin that I recommend to some of my patients. And obviously there are many others, but just making sure that your nutrient levels are where they need to be can also help with your nervous system. And if you're overly stressed, I do recommend that you take vitamin C in a little bit of higher doses, because vitamin C is eaten up by your adrenal glands during periods of stress. So those are like the main ones. Obviously, there are other things, but without like doing labs, I can't really generalize. But generally, I would say that those are well tolerated in most people and can really help someone whose nervous system is taxed. And then the behaviors, right? So I spoke to a patient today who I could see was very stressed. And then we talked about breathing. And I asked her, are you a shallow breather, or do you take deep breaths? And I already knew before she told me, but she said, I breathe very shallow breaths. And sometimes I feel like I have to remind myself to breathe. Now, it might sound silly, but that's a real thing, because I've been there when I'm very stressed, where I'm like, oh my God, I need to take a deep breath. I feel like I'm forgetting to breathe and I'm going to forget to breathe. And if you haven't felt that before, great. I'm so happy for you. But yes, I've felt that before. And that's where some mindfulness practice comes into play. Yoga can be very helpful for improving and taking into account that you need to breathe and do your deep breathing exercises. And taking baths can be helpful. What else? PEMF mats, the electromagnetic frequency mats, can be helpful for stress. And I mean, there's various other things. I just guess it depends on the person. But the last thing that I will say is exercise. So if you're someone who's used to exercising 6 days a week, that is not going to fly. I think that when your body is in this overtaxed state, you have to listen to your body and probably bring it down to 3 times a week. And if you're doing a lot of cardio, you might have to switch out the cardio and do more restorative exercises like yoga, Pilates, or Pure Barre, strength training, something that's going to help kind of calm down your nervous system. So those are just my recommendations based off of my past year, where I noticed that running was not going to be part of the plan for me. Then after a year of taking a break, changing my exercise regimen, exercising a little bit less, trying to do yoga when I could, sleeping more. Oh my gosh, this year I needed so much sleep sometimes to like be a functional human. And that helped me as well. So I think that this is something that you can do on your own. But if you needed a little bit extra help, you can always see a provider that works with women and men with these concerns. But anyways, just wanted to pop in, tell you that we will be coming back to a full functional podcast soon. So just stand by, and thank you for sticking around.